Hi everybody. So if you are watching this video, we are going to be walking through the introduction portion of your lottery and Encanto essay. If you are not in the right video, please exit this one and go to the next one. But if you are looking for the introduction instructions, you're in the right place. I'm going to start all of these videos with reading the prompt just so we remember an overview of what we're supposed to be doing. So I'm going to get right into it. If I'm going too fast and you need to pause, please feel free to do so. Rewind, do whatever makes sense for you. The prompt says in three well developed paragraphs, compare and contrast The Lottery by Shirley Jackson and Disney's Encanto. Be sure to include the following: evidence from both the text and the film to support your analysis, and explain how the two works are similar and where they differ in their treatment of these themes. So, the other thing that I do want to point out is that we are going to need a concluding thesis statement at the end of your essay. But again, we're just on the introduction for this first part. So, we are going to type that together. All of our introductions are going to look essentially the same. And then once we get down to the body paragraphs, that's where your essays will start to look different from each other. But as far as the introduction goes, we are all going to do the same exact introduction because we're all talking about the same things. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So you can see that you have colors that are organized with what you're supposed to be doing. So if step one, which is also task one, is in this like pink mauve color, so will your outline down here. Your outline will be the same color. So the first thing we're going to get into is whenever we have a hook of an essay. I don't know how much you guys have written in the last few years while you guys were in middle school, but one thing that we always want to start our essays with in our introduction are three things: hook, background information, and thesis statement. So writing an essay is actually very similar to doing a math problem. I know some of you are really good at math and have that math brain. If you think about writing an essay like a formula, you'll pretty much be able to pick it up very quickly. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to write a hook. So we need to get our reader interested in what we're talking about, but we also need to stay on topic. So we don't want to just say like, hey, you, I'm going to tell you about this. That's like a third grade way to start an essay, not a ninth grade way. So if we think about what our entire essay is supposed to be around is about tradition. We've read all kinds of things about tradition, so we kind of need to come up with a brief definition for what tradition is. So we could say traditions are customs, not costumes, customs, sorry, customs, beliefs, or practices that are often passed down from generation to generation, because that shows that we give these traditions to the people that are the next in our family. We don't just stop them, otherwise they wouldn't be traditions. We could say usually within a family, this could be in a community, as we see in the lottery, or in a culture. The reason why we want to include culture is because you guys read an article about the dangers of traditions, and a lot of those traditions are cultural definitions, or yeah, cultural traditions. Sorry. So that would kind of be why we would want to include all three of those. Now, the next thing we're going to get into is our background information. This is very short and sweet. We basically just want to point out that sometimes traditions are really, really good things, and other times they're not. I mean, as we can see, we're going to get into it later and be more specific, but if we think about it, traditions are supposed to be fun and exciting. Like for those of you that celebrate Christmas, maybe you wear pajamas every Christmas, and that's supposed to be enjoyable. Where other traditions, as we know from what we've read, can kind of get out of hand. They can hurt people. They can, like, sometimes people follow traditions without questioning them. And that's what we're talking about in this essay. So, before we move on, I do want to remember to italicize the word traditions. So on your iPad, you are going to have, it doesn't look like this, unfortunately, because they don't give us the same devices, but on your iPad, you are going to see something in the top right corner that has an A on it. That's how you change things like the font. When you click on that, when you have the word traditions highlighted, you will find an I. An I stands for italics, and that kind of just knocks the word a little bit sideways. And you can see that it's written differently. Anytime we have a definition that's maybe new or something that we need to define, that's what we're going to do. So we're going to do that for a few words here soon. So if you don't know how to do that, please pause the video, go ahead and do that. Ask either Miss Bittler, Miss Pierce, or myself, and we will get that fixed for you, and then you can come back to the video. If you know how to do that, we're going to move on. So we're going to get into background information. So like I said, we could start this by saying, while most traditions And we can keep this simple. While most traditions are meaningful and bring people together, some can be harmful or outdated, especially when they are followed blindly. Actually, I don't like the wording of that. We could say are followed without question. Like nobody's standing up and saying, why do we do this? This is where we kind of talked in class about some of the traditions that we have that are kind of strange. Like in the dangers of traditions, they talked about the fact that we put our dead tooth underneath or our baby teeth underneath a pillow and expect somebody to give us money. We dress around at Halloween, for those of you that celebrate, and we beg strangers for candy. Otherwise, we say we're going to trick them and do something mean to them if they don't give us candy. And we feel entitled that because we wore a costume, they get to give us candy. It's that same thing. It's kind of interesting when you think about the questions that we may have that nobody's ever asked about traditions. So far we have, from the top to the bottom, traditions are customs, beliefs, and practices that are often passed down from generation to generation, usually within a family, community, or culture. While most traditions are meaningful and bring people together, some can be harmful or outdated, especially when they are followed without question. So for our thesis statement, we just need to point out that we're going to be talking, first of all, we need to name the two things we're working with. We have not talked about the lottery once, and we have not talked about Encanto once. We want to make sure we're including like authors' names or the fact that Disney made Encanto. And again, if we look at, actually, we'll get into that in just a second. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's just say in both the lottery by, her name is Shirley Jackson, and Disney's Encanto, we want to make sure we spell them correctly. Keep in mind, the lottery and Encanto are both either stories or they are movies, so we do want to italicize those. So again, my way of italicizing is different than yours. In the top right of your iPad, there's going to be an A button. You click that, and then there's going to be an I for italics. Again, if you don't know how to do that, ask for help. So in both The Lottery by Shirley Jackson and Disney's Encanto, think about what we're saying about both of them. What is our whole essay supposed to be about? We're supposed to be talking about how they both, if we look at what our body paragraph 1 is, talk about tradition and conformity and how there's sacrifices in both stories. So we could say, because we want to stick with those ideas, what we're supposed to be talking about. If you look at body 1, that's tradition and conformity. Body 2 is sacrifices. So in both The Lottery by Shirley Jackson and Disney's Encanto, tradition pushes characters to conform and make sacrifices to fit in. Maybe in your head you're already able to think of some examples. We don't even have to get that far yet. But what I do want you to do is our first topic is about how traditions make us conform. So we're going to highlight that in yellow. And then how we're going to talk about the sacrifices in order to fit in. That's our second topic. Oh, I did not mean to make that green. I meant to highlight that in green. Here we go. So whenever we talk about conformity, okay, one thing that I'm going to do, you don't have to do it on yours, but to show you the connection, our first paragraph is about conformity. Our second one is about making sacrifices. So you can see, hopefully, the connection. If you can't see the connection yet, we will get to that. This is the end of the introduction paragraph outline video. So if you have all of this, fantastic. If you have questions, please rewatch this because there's plenty of information in here that might help you. I am going to read it one last time. What I'd like for you to do is while this video is playing, if you could look at your paper and make sure that it matches. I'm just going to start from the hook, background information, thesis statement. We should have the same information. Okay. Traditions are customs, beliefs, or practices that are often passed down from generation to generation, usually within a family, community, or culture. While most traditions are meaningful and bring people together, some can be harmful and outdated, especially when they are followed without question. In both The Lottery by Shirley Jackson and Disney's Encanto, tradition pushes characters to conform and make sacrifices to fit in. As long as you have that, you can X out of this video.